Greetings. I video. Let me know if you can hear me. Tonight I will be solo, and shout out to everybody who was watching this video live and everybody who was going to watch the replay. I apologize for being a few minutes late. I got a phone call like 7:55 and I'm like, oh, I gotta go live. And it was a great phone call to help me kind of, get my emotions down, because the topic I'm going to talk about tonight is really, really heavy on my heart. And I saw a video earlier today. Well, I watched a portion of it last night. Tariq Nasheed, he has shared it on Instagram, and I watched it around midnight. And at the same time on Facebook, Facebook Memories had brought up an article I shared last year about a 11-year-old who was tased back in my hometown of Cincinnati. So I tried to share that one on Instagram, but I ended up sharing just the incident that occurred in Rochester that I'm going to talk to you about tonight. So I had to, do it over. Shout out to everybody who was here. Thank you so much. And watching the video, I'm not going to play the video tonight, because you can go in and watch it, as your emotional well-being allows you to. But I don't want to play it again. But it's very real. We cannot run from it. And our children have been, put in this predicament where they are not exempt from being children. They're treated, like hardened criminals over, in this case tonight, no crime was committed. No crime at all was committed. And to see what happened to this 9-year-old Black girl, because that's one thing the media is glancing over. They just put out 9-year-old child, but or 9-year-old girl. But this was a Black girl, and from what I saw, all the officers on scene were white. Okay, and so I'm going to just talk to you a little bit about that. So this occurred on Friday up in Rochester, New York. And when you see this body cam footage, they show you on the news the incident at the car, but it goes beyond that. So if you can find that video, I'm pretty sure I did not link it in the description just yet, but I will. It starts out early on, and it's between the 9-year-old child, her mother, and the officer that's wearing a body cam. And the exchange that you hear is the mother is yelling at this 9-year-old child, yelling at her, making threats to her, even aggressively charging at her. And the police, the race soldier, because I have to use the correct term, shout out to Elder Neely Fuller Jr., okay? Make sure you go to Produce Justice and pick up your code concept book to include the word guide. So that's one thing I had to, get my words right. The suspected white supremacist race soldier, law enforcer, allowed this mother to make these threats to this child. This 9-year-old child, from the conversation that we get, just witnessed something, very, very bad. From the exchange that was going on, the child was saying that she either allegedly saw her mother stab her father, and that's what she saw prior to the police coming there. And so as you're listening, you hear the mother call the child a grown-ass bitch, saying that she's done, and even charge her. And the officer did absolutely nothing to prevent this child from being assaulted, threatened, and everything else in front of him. Didn't do jack. This child is sitting up here on her own, telling about what she just witnessed happen to her father. And so then the body cam footage stops. And then in this exchange, you can hear the officer say, hey, to the 9-year-old child, let's go in my car, it's cold. From my experience, but also just being a mother, being a woman, being a person, you can just hear, he know what the F to do. No, did not know what the F to do. This child is being assaulted in your presence. If that's not neglect, I don't know what is. Child endangerment, but this child is being threatened right in front of your face. The mother saying she's done, And then, so when we get up, I don't know how far they walked or moved from where that situation happened. you can see that the child is covered in snow. And the thumbnail I used for this video shows the child in the freaking snow, sitting in snow, completely covered in snow. What justified? Nothing at all justified these law enforcers putting their hands on this child. They talk about she's gonna run away. How the fuck you gonna run in the snow? I grew up in Cincinnati. You don't get far and you don't get away too fast in snow. Make it make sense. I don't get it. But if she wanted to run away, what crime did she commit? You know where she's going. Okay, so we go up to where she's handcuffed. She's been face down. She's been rolled around in the snow by male officers. That's all I saw was male officers. Tell me, why in the fuck are they touching a child? You don't touch anybody. You don't touch anybody unless you are effecting an arrest. And from what I gathered, no crime had been committed. None. No crime. So then they go to try to clean this up and say, well, she wanted to hurt herself. She wanted to run away. Okay, think about it. Apply 3 factors. When someone says that they're going to do something or you have something: opportunity, capability, intent. She's standing there with police, or I'm sorry, the law enforcers. Her mother has displayed threats of hurting her and harming her. And the intent, capability. What the fuck she gonna do? Eat a snowball? Have a snowball fight? I don't get it. So you did not have all 3 of those things there for this to be possible. Plus 9 years old. So we're up at the point where, okay, she's in handcuffs. She's on the ground. What person wants to be in handcuffs on the ground? Then the camera speeds up again and you see more than 5 5 law enforcers present. And you have 1 female there as well. And they're putting this child, okay, you've already illegally put her in handcuffs, touched her. Because at that point in time, you had no probable cause. You're not, nothing serious was really going on. It was a verbal exchange. So no probable cause was really developed at that time at all. If anything, it was on the mother. It happened right in front of your face. But now they're putting her in a car. This child is asking for her father who she just stated she saw get stabbed by her mother who was there on scene. And they're trying to put her in the back of a police car. I've been in the back of a police car plenty of times. I've been handcuffed plenty of times. Going in the back of a police car is not like you're sitting on a freaking couch. And to a 9-year-old child, in her mind, what me as a citizen, a bystander looking, that child is being kidnapped. She did absolutely nothing wrong. You have no probable cause to take this child away. She's being kidnapped by all the law enforcers there on scene. They are taking this child and taking her from her parents for no reason. For no damn reason. They wasn't putting her in or asking her to go if she would like to sit in the vehicle to separate the parties, to get this side of the story, that side of the story. Nothing. Why is she in handcuffs, first of all? So then, okay, I just did a video like 2 or 3 videos back about pepper spray, OC spray. Use OC spray to effect an arrest. And let me find it for a second. In this video, this child was already in handcuffs. You don't pepper spray somebody for not wanting to sit in a vehicle. You don't do that. And why was she in the back of that fucking car in the first place? That's what gets me pissed off. She should have never been back there in the first place. But because these assholes are frustrated and whatever the hell else is going on, they want to pepper spray. Their quote was, "Last chance or pepper spray is going in your eyeballs." And before that even happened, the law enforcer with the body cam yanked on her handcuffs. This is a 9-year-old child in handcuffs. So I told you about having 2 sets of handcuffs. You have a small set for, you know, smaller frame individuals, and then you have a larger set for those who are bigger. I'm pretty sure they had those cuffs all the way tight, right in the bone, because she is a small child. But you see them, he grabbed those handcuffs and pulled that child back, damaging all of this on her wrist. You're not. It is not policy to grab or transport a person by the handcuffs at all. And to do that to a 9-year-old child, assaulting this child in the back of that car, she was being kidnapped. So then you see both of them grab pepper spray, pull it out, shake it up like it's a fucking game. You know, that's the part right there. The threat, if the threat wasn't already bad enough, that child remembered that threat. That child repeated that threat and continued crying out for her father. And then to deploy OC spray on this child that is handcuffed. I've never deployed handcuffed on an adult handcuffed. You don't do that. That is against policy. That is against that's just beyond human nature. Because to carry it, you've been exposed to it too. I told you, I've been pepper sprayed twice. You don't do that to people. You don't do that to a child. And you don't do that for the fact that, okay, you want them to get into a car. You don't do that. That's just terrible across all platforms. So then it gets worse. It gets worse. This child is not only handcuffed, just been assaulted, rolled around in the fucking snow, thrown in the back of an all plastic and metal small part of the back of the fucking car. They closed the fucking door after pepper spraying her. And I talked about that in the video that I just did. When you deploy pepper spray on somebody, they need access to air. You need to, although like I'll have a person just get done ground fire with me, I OC them, you know, then you effect the arrest and handcuff them. Then you render whatever aid that you can. You immediately call for a medic, a supervisor. You get them fresh air. You talk to them and calm them, you know, because you took that ride yourself. So you have a bit of compassion and empathy. Like, yeah, you know, yeah, you just, you know, did what you did. But hey, okay, you're in handcuffs now. It's time to, you know, bring the situation down, de-escalate the situation. So they slammed the door, and I think they said something like unbelievable, but locked this child in the back of a fucking car, just deployed OC spray on her, just fucking kidnapped her, just fucking assaulted her. Her mother just made threats to her. She just witnessed her father being stabbed, getting stabbed. Right. Living Smoke said, the cop said to her, she's acting like a child, and she replied, I am a child. And you know what? I have to give it up to this child. You know, it appears as though she has not had the opportunity to be a 9-year-old. Based on the way that her mammy was talking to her, you don't do that to a child. Like, I wish it was some way that I could foster her and welcome her into my home, because the shit that I saw on this video, it made absolutely zero sense. So I'm gonna go to take a moment and thank everybody for being here tonight. Like I said, I was trying to space this video out so that my emotions wouldn't just, you know, get the best of me. But I'm gonna share my screen with y'all. Trying to figure out which one I have it on. Here we go. And let me go back to make sure y'all see what I see. There we go. I'm so making a full screen. So we have it here. Rochester officer suspended after pepper spraying a 9-year-old girl. And where are we at? And I'm just gonna skim over, because there are certain parts here that really stood out, that really pissed me off. And like Living Smoke said, at one point, an officer said, you're acting like a child. She responded, I am a child. And if that wasn't enough to wake them up to say, oh my gosh, this is a child, these are just wild fucking beasts that should not be on the streets. wearing or having this type of authority at all, because it's crazy that, you know, in particular, black children do not have the opportunity to be seen as children, i.e. Tamir Rice. The next incident that I'll bring up in the school with the 15-year-old, the next one, an 11-year-old. You know, our children are not seen as children. They're seen as the most hardened criminals for the most minute things. And this is the shit right here that just gets me pissed off. So it says the police department in Rochester, New York, released body cam footage on Sunday that showed a 9-year-old girl being handcuffed and pepper sprayed by police who had responded to a family disturbance call. During the incident, which occurred Friday afternoon, officers restrained the girl, pushing her into the snow in order to handcuff her, while she repeatedly screamed for her father. Why the fuck did y'all touch her? Why the fuck was she in cuffs? And the reason why I'm choosing to make this video, you know, I was told that, you know, people in our positions have the ability to really, you know, I won't say influence or anything like that, but to bring another side of this, because I'm at a loss of words, but it really helps, because while the media will really paint, you know, our children as these, you know, menaces to society and all this other stuff, it takes our voices and in our positions to speak out against this and show how our children, our people are being violated. When she refused to sit in a police car, an officer pepper sprayed her. Rochester's mayor, Lovely Warren, announced on Monday that the officers involved, come on now, let's bring up all this stuff. Officers involved will be suspended until the conclusion of an internal investigation, saying that the state laws and union rules prevented her from taking a more serious action. The incident has brought renewed scrutiny to the Rochester Police Department months after the city was roiled by the disclosure that Daniel Pruitt, a black man, suffocated to death last year after Rochester police officers placed him in a hood. The handling of Mr. Pruitt's death prompted the city's mayor to abruptly fire the police chief in September, and the department faced accusations of a cover-up after it was revealed that officers had characterized Mr. Pruitt's death as being the result of a drug overdose. Sound familiar? In Mr. Pruitt's case, the body cam footage was released 6 months after his death, only after the family had sued the city. Officers at the time of death sought repeatedly to hide the videos from the public, preventing damaging fallout, according to city documents released last year. And I'm gonna skip down. I'm not going to stand here and tell you that for a 9-year-old to have been pepper sprayed is okay, said the Rochester police chief, Cynthia Harriet Sullivan. Mrs. Warren and the girl said the girl reminded her of her own 10-year-old daughter. And I can tell you the video as a mother is not anything you want to see. And there was something in here. Governor Andrew Cuomo, I spoke on him a while back and his views of saying that, you know, Christopher Columbus, you know, speaking highly of that person. And shout out to the Black Channel for their billboards in New York. He stated that as a human, this incident is disturbing, and as a father, it's heartbreaking, he said in a statement. This isn't how the police should treat anyone, let alone a 9-year-old girl. The incident highlighted the longstanding problem that in many police departments, officers are trained to subdue violent suspects and are often poorly equipped to deal with people who are distraught or mentally ill. And that right there is a cop-out. It really, for lack of a better word, that is a mother-freaking cop-out, because police departments have access to a particular training, and it's called crisis intervention training. They have access to that. Sheriff's departments attend. It's out there. And I've never actually attended the training, but there's other in-house training that you get to deal with, you know, people who are mentally unstable and other things like that. The crisis intervention training is a 40-hour training. And the fact that, you know, when I decided that I wanted to get that training, as I experienced more and more, you know, mentally people in need of services in the community, that's when I had resigned and just went to pursue my bachelor's degree. Michael Mazio, president of the union representing Rochester police officers, defended the officers' actions and said they were confronted with a difficult situation. Those officers in those scenes, they broke no policy. Remember that, they broke no policy. Mr. Mazio said at a news conference on Sunday, there's nothing that anyone can say they did that's inappropriate. Remember, I'm not saying this person in particular, but across the country, there are police unions. They are paid by the officers, okay? Whichever company you use or organization that you use. I won't say the names of them, but there's a couple of them out there. In particular, I remember one in Cincinnati that was just under scrutiny for making some racial statements not too long ago, okay? So, of course, he's going to say this because the officers are paying him to say this, okay? That's what the union is there for. Let me check my screen. Okay. And they said the girl initially tried to run away, Mr. Anderson said. She repeatedly screamed at officers, "I want my dad." As officers handcuffed her, she pleaded with them to stop, her body covered in snow, the footage shows. Officers tried to escort her to the back of a police car so that she could be transported to the hospital. No. I'm unsure what that policy is, but I'm pretty sure to do a voluntary transport, it would not justify all of that. It would not justify all that at all. And if that was the case, and the child also said she had a bad arm, and they just wrestled her on the ground, wrestled her into a back of a car, a medic could have taken her if she was in need of services. Distressed and emotional, the girl said that she did not want to enter the car until she saw her father. At that point in time, had I been on scene, if the father being present would calm this situation down. And also, too, the child was just stated to officers that she saw her father get stabbed. I would do my best to get her father there, and if the father could transport. The officers grew increasingly impatient and stern. She kicked one of the officers, Mr. Anderson said. And I know for a fact that it's not what happens, is what you articulate. This child is in the snow, and she's just been through hell and back. She did not look at that officer, square up, and donkey kick him. They manipulated. I'm pretty sure they manipulated this situation to justify this child committing a crime, so that they had reason to arrest her and get her out of this situation. And that's another dirty tactic that, law enforcers use. They would, I don't even want to go there, but situations like this, I'm pretty sure that this child kicking someone, it was not intentional. It's them kidnapping this child, and this child being in fear for her life. If she's being kidnapped, she's doing exactly what anybody would do if they're being kidnapped and they've just been threatened. They saw someone get stabbed. The officers grew increasingly impatient and stern. She did not kick nobody on purpose. The officers urged her to relax and take a deep breath. How? Finally, an officer said, just spray her at this point. If you're trying to get her to take a deep breath and calm down, why the hell would you pepper spray her? Pepper spray would take away your ability to freaking breathe normally. It's going to heighten everything up. She screamed after an officer sprayed her in the face with the irritant. The officers placed her in the back. She was already in the freaking back of the car. They shoved her and just stuffed her in the back after deploying, like I said, the irritant to her freaking face. Unbelievable. The scene played out in homes in an area that appeared to be a residential neighborhood. The video showed at least 6 police vehicles that all had responded. The girl was transported to the hospital and has since been released. Wow. They put this child through all of that just to release her. Nothing. She did not break any crime. They did not have any PC on her to affect an arrest at all. But instead, however, they still assaulted her, kidnapped her, and just traumatized this child for the rest of her life. for the rest of her life. Carlos said the cops in New York may not have crisis training if the officials say the cops broke no policy. That wasn't a policy. That's a union person saying what they got to say to set the tone. But when does a reasonable when does an investigative detention, not really investigative detention, they responded to the call. Let me stop sharing my screen for a second. They responded to a call. They're trying to see what's going on in this family disturbance. What they had initially, the mother was making threats to the child. The child is being truthful to the officers, saying what she was experiencing, what she witnessed, and the mother was there making threats to this child. So I guess, you know, I'm drawing the conclusion that the scene is like, if the child is going to be returned to the mother, and the mother just threatened her, called her a grown-ass bitch, saying that she's done, even charging the child, and police is not there to protect this child, I'm pretty sure the child could have said, look, I don't want to be here, I want to die, whatever, because that's what the fuck she got to live in. She just saw her mother allegedly stab her father, and the police isn't doing anything to protect her. I would say the shit too, because that's what's going to happen when the police leave and the doors is closed. And yeah, that just really got me pissed off. Had this been a situation where, you know, they did have PC or whatever, right now with the COVID, even before the COVID, it takes a lot. It takes a lot to take a juvenile into custody. A lot. I had a juvenile set a freaking park on fire, and we had to make phone calls like the child was detained for that moment. We could not go anywhere. Get the parents, you know, make the phone calls to see if they're going to even pursue charges. But it's a juvenile. They go back home. Like I said, it takes a lot. And I don't know why. Well, I'm not saying I can pretty much assume why, but the thing to do at that scene was separate the parties. Separate them. Like I said, the mother is making threats to this child, charging at this child. This child just saw something traumatic. Separate the parties. Keep them apart. Calm down the situation. Talk to the child. Go back and talk to the other party. See what is going on. Okay? You can talk to this child. She said she wants her father. Do you have a phone? Do you know how to get in touch with your father? Do you want to check the welfare of the father? The child said she saw her father get stabbed in the stomach. Check the welfare. But no, they just wanted to manhandle this child, assault this child, kidnap this child, and it all resulted in this. And you said apparently the child had a long history with domestic calls and was out of control. I have no idea why they had trouble detaining a 9-year-old. If there was a long history here, okay, you already know what is going on, what to expect. If this is already a hostile situation, don't add more fuel to the fire. Don't come in here talking about I am the law. You're going to listen to me and get in people's face. What good is that going to do? Okay, what good is that they're going to do? Apparently, this is a family that is in need of services. And apparently putting handcuffs and pepper spray in this child will not help. So that got me pretty pissed off, you know. So these officers are suspended, and I think what has got me in my emotions in a little bit too, it was because I just saw another video of a 15-year-old being tasered at a school. And I'm going to find that video. Well, I'm not going to show the video. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just bring up the article. And where are we at? Here we go. School resource officer who used taser on Eustis High School student not facing discipline, but the student was arrested. That video, we saw that on on these internet streets. We saw that, and that was pretty disturbing in itself. But it keeps bringing up use of force on our children, and it's like as these incidents are growing, it's like a rule book or a cheat code is being developed to properly articulate these circumstances. Because not too long ago, we saw a student who was lifted out of her seat and like body slam, WWE slammed into the floor for some reason. And this kind of force, these kind of scenarios should not be playing out in our school systems. There was one here. It says video taken inside a Eustis High School cafeteria on the 9th grade campus on Tuesday afternoon shows a school resource officer using a taser on a student, sending her to the ground. According to a report from Lake County Sheriff's Department, the incident started as a fight between two students. The deputy said he approached the student and she attacked him, punched him 7 times in the face and kneeing him in the side. In the video, you can see the moment the deputy deployed his taser. You can see the moment the deputy gets his taser and fires it at the student. She falls to the ground while students stand all around. I'm pretty sure that they'll have like there's no sound, which is good. But that's how that incident happened there. And that was taken from another student's phone. And here we go. And here is the other angle of that. So there was the other side of it. Even here, like I said, it's exactly what I figured it would be. The officer got in there. If there was a fight between two students, yes, you want to stop that fight, but also too, you have to think about it. You're going into this situation with a belt full of weapons on, and yes, at that time, that's what it was. But school resource officers being usually the only officer in there, okay, you have to get in there. If something that you see is going on is outside of your ability, it's going to take a while before other officers get there to the school, to help you diffuse that situation. But that right there, him going hands on, she was getting the best of him, and you saw her get up and back away. She backed away, and then it's a lot in between that exchange. But she had actually backed away. I wonder. I mean, I don't know if he gave her a warning, but he deployed his taser and then took her into custody. But you gotta think about it. What do you have at that time to put hands on that student? And as far as the police department's policy goes, he was within policy. But we did see the physical exchange between the two of them. And this was another one that made its way around social media as well. Let me stop this screen share. But like I said, if there was a fight happening between two people, two students, you get in this fight, you may be in this fight. And you don't know which children are special needs or what, but they're already heated in this fight. And you get in there, you may take a couple of blows. You may, but that's your choice to get in there and get hands on that situation. But we saw the exchange with them fighting. Still, I'm not justifying it. I still don't see the use of force on our children. So this leads me to another instance, because when I saw that, I remember, like I said, I shared the other article of the Cincinnati police officer tasing the 11-year-old, and with that one, it led to Cincinnati changing their policy, and you have to think about it too. Like this Florida officer, where his was justified. You saw and you have to use for use of force. It has to be objective reasonableness. So at that instance, there was a fight. The fight then turned in exchange with the officer. The seriousness of the crime, and you put all of the gram factors into it. And like I said, I told y'all that before when I did the other video on Rashard Brooks. You have to go and look up the gram factors, because it's all about the objective, reasonable standard. And the fact that that video captured the other exchange, not just the exchange of him deploying the taser, but what happened before that. But still, when it comes to our children and use of force, these are children. They're not developed thinking adults where, they have these experiences and they've developed to know what they're doing. But like I said, let me go to the other article. In Cincinnati, where are we at? Let me see. And thank everybody for tuning in with me tonight as we talk about these instances of uses of force on our children. This was the first one. So back in 2018, there was an instance where an 11-year-old was suspected of shoplifting. Yeah, there we go. Suspected of shoplifting at a neighborhood Kroger's. And like I said, I'm from Cincinnati, so we say Kroger's, even though it's supposed to be Kroger. Police say the officer suspected the girl was using a backpack to shoplift when he approached her. They say the girl resisted and tried to flee before she was shocked with the stun gun. The girl was taken to a hospital and released. She initially was charged with theft and obstruction of justice, but the mayor says he asked prosecutors to drop the charges. An investigation is underway. And it goes down. So it said currently the policy with the Cincinnati Police Department was that tasers can be used on people ages 7 to 70 actively resisting arrest. And that's the difference between the video that we just watched and the one that we have here. Once with that policy right there, once it crossed over to, assault on an LEO and, affecting that arrest, that's how it became within policy, because it says actively resisting arrest, and you use the SIR factors, the gram factors on the objective reasonableness of the use of force, and how that is different from the first one with the 9-year-old. There was no arrest to be made on this child. So this developed into the charges being dropped. And it says that I know everybody will probably be like, well, she stole or whatever, but that's not the issue at this point. The issue is how he went about it. And this is from Gowdy. The police chief, Elliot Isaac, came to her home Tuesday night to talk about what happened. She says she wants a full investigation, opportunity to see the findings. I got to go to the next article real quick. I'll show you a different screen that happened after the FBI investigation got into it. And thank you to J Bab. How are you doing? Thank you for the super chat. I really appreciate you. Charges dropped. Okay, here we go. And let me edit this so you can read what I'm saying. There we go. Okay. Now, a year later, the FBI gets involved to investigate. Was this the same article? Yeah, forgive me. I'm sorry. I'm going to cross out whichever one is not it. Okay, I think you can now see what I'm saying. Here we go. FBI investigating Cincinnati police officers' use of taser on an 11-year-old girl. Feds exploring possible civil rights violation. And remember, the article we just read, it said use on someone who was actively resisting, okay? The FBI is investigating an off-duty Cincinnati police officer's use of a taser on an 11-year-old girl last August for a possible civil rights violation. Let me go here. Brown, this is the officer. Officer Brown, 55, shot the girl in the back with a taser as she left the Kennard Avenue Kroger store where Brown was working security. Brown accused the girl of shoplifting and said he was stunned when she walked out of the store and refused his order to stop. The charges of theft and obstruction against the girl were later dropped, and the city and Kroger agreed to pay the family a settlement of $240,000. Cincinnati police spokesman Tiffany Hardy said Friday that the department is cooperating with the FBI investigation. Hardy said no one in the department could speak on that investigation. Later, Cincinnati police announced a revised use of force procedure that says officers should avoid using a taser on any people who appear to be young children, elderly, medically infirm, pregnant, or users of a cardiac pacemaker. Before the revision, officers were permitted to use a stun gun on anyone between the ages of 7 and 70 who was actively resisting arrest when there is probable cause to arrest. Okay, that's important because at the time, the officer only suspected her of shoplifting. He did not have the probable cause. And a probable cause is based on facts and circumstances that a reasonable person will believe that a crime was committed by a particular person or particular people. So right here, the use of force during an investigation, it has to be objectively reasonable in the totality at that time. And in most cases, if you threaten someone like, hey, I'm going to tase you, stop, or I will tase you. Most of the time people stop because, people know that, or, it's common in the public that, officers, will deploy the taser. So most people will stop. They know what it's about, they will stop. And at this time, the officer did not have probable cause to arrest. He only was going off of a mere suspicion of shoplifting. He probably did not see the child actively concealing merchandise, and he was probably going off a hearsay of somebody else. He did not actually witness the misdemeanor. Okay, but still that investigative detention, according to this, was not probable cause to arrest at that time, what he had at that time. He may have later found out, the child, was concealing merchandise and attempted shoplifting, but at the time he used that force, it's likely that he did not have that probable cause at that time, which made that use of force unreasonable. And as I said before, Chief Isaac announced that the change in procedure to officers in the department staff notes memo, the procedure was revised to align with the 1989 Supreme Court ruling in the case of Graham versus Connor. That's what I'm saying, the Graham factors and stuff like that, which requires police to meet a standard of objective reasonableness when using force. Officers should avoid using a taser on persons who reasonably appear to be or known to be young children. So at that time, the officer, did not know her, probably did not know her exact age, but looking at the picture up top, the still image, that's a child. Officers are not prohibited from using a taser on such persons, but is limited to those exceptional circumstances where the potential benefit of using the taser reasonably outweighs the risk and concerns. Now, my experience when it comes to shoplifting cases and stuff like that, now where I worked in Virginia, we would respond to a shoplifting. We necessarily, at times, depending on the amount, we would not make a actual in custody arrest. You would release someone on a summons. And I believe in this case, the child, the total of the merchandise that the child was in possession of was only $50. So it's likely that would have been released to parents. and a police report would have been made, and it would have been up to the city, the prosecutor, to decide if they're going to take that case to juvenile court. But this right here, the reasonable use, or the objective reasonableness of using this taser, it reasonably outweighs the risk and concerns. So the injury, the potential for, permanent injury to this child and making the situation worse than what they had at that moment, it was unreasonable. Here we go. Also, the use of force procedure now also reinforces de-escalation techniques as the preferred method of gaining voluntary compliance. It also permits the use of beanbag shotguns by sworn department supervisors who are certified by certain groups during annual firearms training. There was also something else in here about this incident. I think it was in the other article down here. And I say thank you, everybody, for watching this tonight. It needs to talk this out and get it off my chest, because seeing our children, and have these extreme measures used on our children is not right. Okay. Yeah, here we go. Righting of wrongs. An internal affairs investigation found that Brown, the officer, violated 4 police policies. Specifically, the comment about grocery stores in Black neighborhoods constituted prejudice. Brown did not turn on his body camera until after he deployed his taser, and he did not warn the child that he was going to use his taser. And he used the taser when the incident wasn't serious enough to warrant it. Police investigators said officers should use the least amount of force necessary when dealing with juveniles. Okay. So, yeah, with that one, the child was walking away, and the severity of the crime, all the other indicators that you would need for objective to, weigh out and test the objective reasonableness of that situation was not there. And plus the policy said that, it has to be applied, during a probable cause of arrest, which he did not have. He just had a mere suspicion. He had enough for a detention of the child, to detain the child, investigate what's going on, but not to apply that force. You said, I don't think it has nothing to do. And shout out to everybody who's here. I really appreciate you helping me talk through this and make it make sense in my head. And also, too, I learned a lot from the comments, because I have people from everywhere watching. So there's some stuff that I don't know that I may, not have that perspective. So I appreciate people for leaving their comments and helping me, understand some stuff. But one thing, too, when it comes to shoplifting, I never worked off-duty employment at like a store. I wouldn't do it, because when you have these shoplifting cases, and when you write a summons for someone, you have to have someone from that business show up to testify. Most likely you'll have, someone from loss prevention who actually witnessed, the crime take place, because you as the officer cannot testify to it. And most of the time, when you would write a summons for a shoplifting, the person from the business would not show up. So, this officer just went through all that for Kroger. Nobody saw the child actually concealing the merchandise or anything like that. I think that's why it was pushed so hard to where the charges were dropped. And also, too, the policy was changed. I don't know what happened to the officer, but yeah, it was all, he did not have it. He did not have it. And I used that example to show that first incident with the 9-year-old in Rochester. This was an investigative circumstance. There was no probable cause to touch this child. There was no probable cause. I mean, they can try that, for officer safety, she stated that, made statements, wanted to harm herself. They could use that all day. Okay, I put the child in handcuffs. But when you look at it, the opportunity, the capability, the intent, I didn't see all 3 of those being there. And then with the second one, we saw at the school from the different perspectives. We may have had this perspective, but we saw the other perspective where there was a physical exchange. And more than likely what it looked like, the child was trying to get away. She was trying to get away. That's what it was. She wasn't trying to, gain an advantage, get on top of the officer and, take his life. She was fighting to get away. And then however, the other circumstances that was there, if there was, pre-assault indicators, whatever, the force was applied, and the parents, the juvenile and the officers worked that situation, and that's what that is. But that was still very, very hard to watch. Very, very hard to watch. So then we have, where are we going after this? I think I have one more article to show y'all. Just 1 second. I think you're ready for it. Stick with me. I'm trying to get better at, doing my split screens. And I appreciate y'all for bearing with me. And I think that was everything that I have. There was one other article I watched about or read concerning the incident in Rochester, New York. And they were saying, okay, we're going to, try to tackle this with de-escalation training. But then there was something else where the writer of this article was really trying to stack the deck against this 9-year-old. They said, well, officers approached this juvenile who was wearing a black hoodie. And I'm like, oh, hell no, here we go again, which is why I put on mine. Of course, she had on, freaking cold weather gear. It was snowing out there. But one thing that I've become more aware of is how these articles try to stack the deck and try to, paint this picture of, someone who is, quote, deserving of whatever mistreatment that they get. And that kind of pissed me off as well. So I want y'all to be aware of that. But there's no justification on what happened to this 9-year-old child. There was no justification about what happened to the child in Cincinnati. It wasn't, because the comment that was made by the officer, and also too, like I said, if you look up other videos of that, he did not have his body cam on. He turned it on for like a split second. And then he did not cut it back on until he moved the child to, I guess this is the loss prevention office. And then he calls for a medic, to come and remove the probes. The probes are when you deploy the taser, and that's one thing I'll give you a quick, I know it's kind of off topic, but quick. They was using stun gun versus taser interchangeably, and that's not correct. A stun gun, you have to take the item and make contact with, the person. Taser, it has two deploying barbs and prongs that it's like a needle with a hook. It's like a fishing hook. So it will pierce the skin, but also there's a hook to prevent it from coming out really easily. And that's why the medics come, because that skin has been broken. The medics come and remove it. And then you put those with the rest of the taser into property and evidence. But quite some time had passed, and he's talking to this juvenile and telling her, like, you're stealing, and that's why y'all don't have any grocery stores in the Black community and stuff like that. And that was really, really inappropriate, because it was like he was talking down to his own people. And there is a section here in the United Independent Compensatory Code Concept System by Neely Fuller Jr. Purchases at ProduceJustice.com. They, stated that both the officer and the child were Black. And where was this at? If a non-white person says that he or she is a police officer but speaks or acts in a manner that indicates that he or she is not a police officer, but is a person who was using force to help a suspected race soldier to enforce the practice of white supremacy racism, it is correct to use the term misguided victim of white supremacy to apply to that non-white person. And this is coming from page 291 of the Word Guide, And this is under this section titled police. So definitely take a look at that. 1 second. So hopefully with this child in New York, and also with other cases of this happening, it's important for us to remember them. The internet can scrub these articles, and each time it happens, it's like, oh, it's new. Oh, it's new. It keeps happening again. And let me tell you, on police departments, especially, I know firsthand, the ones that I was on, they would take articles like these and study them, and, try to use different things to justify certain behavior. So we should study them as well. So when you find them, study them, follow whatever higher court ruling or policy changes, remember them, and go from there. You said, do you have a link to the book? Of course. Everything right. You get that at producejustice.com. You said Chicago's violence doesn't compare to what happens in cities in Mexico and South America. But yeah, using force on our children to effect an arrest. And that's one thing I want to talk to parents about. One thing I used to hear a lot about, well, I would hear a lot this term when I was in uniform, and I would have parents, I'll be at the 7-Eleven or something chilling, and I have a parent be like, look to their small child, you see that cop right there? I'm gonna have that cop arrest you. I'm gonna have that cop do this. And I used to break my heart so bad, because you're causing this child to have a fear of law enforcers, which, in this situation, what we see on TV and what has been happening is quite understandable to believe that. But as a parent, that is your responsibility to, I don't want to say handle, but it's your responsibility to, dissolve different family conflict at your level. At 9 years old, this should alert anyone else outside of that house. Like, hold on, a 9-year-old is, defending herself, as if she is way older, defending herself, and you can see how she's being talked to. There's some serious intervention that needs to happen, and that intervention did not call for handcuffs, allowing this child to be assaulted in your presence, and then adding to that, further traumatizing this child for the rest of her life. I still remember when my mother was placed in handcuffs when I was like 5 or 6. I still remember that 30 years later. But the only way this will stop is if these law enforcers be held accountable. And there in my opinion, there is no de-escalation training to solve this. Either you have it or you don't. It's some who will come onto the police department who do not have it. They will make stuff worse. So they should be, handled, held accountable for what they did, produce justice, but also too, these kind of persons, should not be hired. And shout out to the Black Authority for his video that he did a couple of weeks ago, showing how, how these police departments have been completely co-opted, completely taken over. There is no, obligation to serve or protect at all. Just 1 second. All right. But yeah, they need to be held accountable. There's no excuses for this behavior. And we need to really, be careful when we're calling, outside help as far as, you know, 911 in these situations, because it's these key words that are going to trigger. Let's take it upon ourselves to handle these situations, you know, before it gets to that point, because we've seen persons who are mentally, you know, having a mental crisis. They're dealt with law enforcement officers where the reply is, well, they don't have de-escalation training, and it's available. It's a freaking available. I told you about CIT training. I told you about other in-house stuff, but also too, you know, they're not looking for this problem. I won't say problem solving, but the ability to resolve these freaking issues. I mean, we even saw it where the behavior interventionist aide was shot while he was with his autistic client. I think this was in Florida. Okay, so yeah, we have to produce justice. We have to hold these law enforcers accountable. Yes, like they were saying, policy changes, but also too, you know, it does nothing to change these policies when you still have the same culture and climate that is there. Okay. Shout out to Black Voltron Reloaded. He said, it still amazes me that two Black men, Michael Johnson and Gavin Long, got the entire U.S. law enforcement to stop shooting and beating on Black people for a short period of time. Truly amazing. I recall that was recent too. Modern day cops seem to be trained to escalate and fish for a make-believe situation. And that's absolutely true, because when I was working for this other department, the scenarios that they would, you know, make for the in-house training, it was the most bizarre, off the wall situations ever. Like, this is not how people act. You know what I'm saying? They got people yelling and screaming and, you know, charges. Like, this is not what goes on. They just make up these situations to cause an adrenaline rush and the worst case scenario behind every, you know, situation. It's absolutely crazy. I have another book here. I'm not sure where it is, but make sure you go pick up Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey's book, and also subscribe to her channel. I love her so much. I have notifications set for everybody, but when hers come up, I watch them. Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey, retired. Pick up her book, Black and Blue. It's Black and Blue. Pick it up on Amazon. That was a really good read. I finished it in like 3 days, but it's a great read about her experiences out in Los Angeles on the LAPD. And I know, like me, I've watched tons of movies about the LAPD, but you get a great, you know, front row seat to what she experiences, and that will help you, you know, really see, you know, a different perspective, you know, outside of these subcultures within. And then what happens when you're like, your eyes open and you're aware of what's going on, and you're like, oh damn, you know, and you know how she turned advocate, speaking out, and, you know, really exposing a lot of these illegal activities, you know, things that are swept under the rug, and how, you know, she is, you know, pushing for reform, accountability, just all things great. I really salute her. And you also see her in what is the movie Race War by Black Channel Films. That's really all I have right here. Like I said, I just wanted to talk about that, because I would have felt really bad, you know, going to bed, you know, and it would have just been on my mind, and then I would have just, you know, pushed it off, because I really did not want to, you know, face this again. But this is a reality that's happening to our people, to our children, and it's not right at all. How you could see this young girl, 9 years old, being, you know, wrestled in the snow, handcuffed, stuffed in the back of a freaking police car, OC sprayed, door shut. This 9-year-old child. I don't even think, you know, as a 30-some-year-old woman, that I could handle that. I don't think I could. But then you see stuff like Dylan Roof get taken to Burger King. You know, make it make sense. And that's really all I got. So I just want to say thank you to everybody who is here with me tonight. Yeah, whenever I try to do a video like this too, that's really heavy, I try to do it live so I don't keep going back, and because to go back and edit it, I have to keep listening and reliving stuff all over again. I'd rather just get everything I have to say out, stand by it, it's done. So like I said, like, subscribe, share. I thank you for your support, and make sure you head over to producejustice.com and pick up the compensatory code, the United Independent Compensatory Code Concept System by Neely Fuller Jr. You can pick up that book and also the accompanying word guide. Oh my gosh, that's probably the best books in my collection. Okay, and I have a whole bunch of books. You can also listen to him here on YouTube whenever they upload something with him speaking. I make sure I tune in and listen. We just lost one of our greats, Miss Cicely Tyson. We have to really respect the wisdom and the information from the elders, and he is an elder still here. I believe he is, oh my gosh, I believe he's like in his 90s. Oh my gosh. So yeah, we need to listen, soak up his knowledge. He's been there, done that, seen way more than we have. Okay. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. If you need to contact me on messages or email, I prefer email because sometimes I don't reply back to all the messages. You can send me a message submission at TieeshaEssex.com. Make sure you head over to Timonics.com and pick up your self-defense gear. I just shared some information concerning self-defense training coming up in 2021. Head over to my Instagram. I'll put it on Instagram, and I have it on my Facebook page. But Blackfoot Protection Solutions is offering defense training camps this year. So make sure you sign up, pay. It'll be a great time. And that's located in West Georgia. And I will see y'all over there at those. Captain PY2, you said, can you please check your email? I need your assistance for a veteran. Okay. I'll see what I can do for you. Thank you for giving me the heads up. I'll look for it. So yeah, go ahead and subscribe. And also too, like I said, let me know what I missed. I'm really open to expanding my views because I know that my view is not the only view and my way is not the only way. So that's it. Thank you for watching, and I will see y'all on the next video. Y'all have a great night and stay safe. I love you.